We shall fight in the field.
Mit der Akzeptanz der
C'est pas parce que les
vier
Britanniques
Grundfreiheiten und dazu gehört
ont
auch
décidé
die
de sortir qu'ils ne doivent pas
Freizügigkeit
être
der
associés à ce
Person.
processus.
Brexit means Brexit.
Hello and welcome to another Brexitometer brought to you by the Martin Centre. We're joining you from London a few days before Brexit Day on January 31st. In the previous Brexitometer we had told you that we would join you again once Brexit had happened, but actually we just couldn't resist to bring you a bit of the atmosphere and a bit of the feel of what life is like in a country that is preparing to exit the EU. It's a historical moment after all. Actually, things here are a bit subdued, a bit bizarre. I would even call them a bit surrealist. There's those who are really looking forward to find extravagant ways to celebrate. There's those who are clinging to their final few days as EU citizens and trying to cope with the loss of what it means not to be an EU citizen anymore. And the vast majority of the people are just taking a wait-and-see approach. Even the government itself, a government that was elected to deliver Brexit, is not as triumphalist as you would expect. So this is the special limbo episode of the Brexitometer, and we're here to give you just a hint, just a taste of what life is like in a place that will not be in the EU anymore in a few days' time. So how do you celebrate your country's liberation from the big evil empire in Brussels? For some people, the only thing that can do justice to this great occasion is a big Brexit, Big Ben, Big Bong. There's some people who really want the Big Ben to strike at 11 p.m. on January the 31st to commemorate the beginning of life of the UK outside of the EU. However, there is a small problem. As you can see, the Big Ben is undergoing renovation currently, which means that it doesn't actually bong. It can bong on selected occasions, for example on New Year's Day or for various royal occasions, but actually to get the Big Ben to bong you need money. By some estimate, £500,000 per bong. So essentially the Brexiteers want the government to spend £500,000 on a single bong at 11 p.m. on January the 31st. And even this government, elected on the promise to get Brexit done, understand that that's a bit too excessive. Instead, the government has proposed something else. The government has proposed to fund flags, to give money to local authorities to buy flags, to fly Union Jacks on January the 31st to celebrate Brexit. Equally patriotic, but cheaper. The problem is that the Eurosceptic right really wants the Big Ben to bong. There's a big campaign by the Eurosceptic press, and there's even a big online crowdfunding campaign to find the money for Big Ben to bong on Brexit Day. Now this all may seem a bit funny and a very kind of quirky British, but it actually shows you there's also a political lesson here. And the lesson is that even this government that was elected on the promise to get Brexit done, and a government that theoretically has very strong Brexit credentials, still faces pressure by the Eurosceptic right that will never be happy unless the UK is as far removed from the EU as possible. It's an early reminder that even a government of Boris Johnson will have to be dealing with a lot of bongs by the right wing of the Conservative Party. So apart from the Big Ben bong controversy, how is life like here in London? Actually, the vast majority of people are taking a wait-and-see approach, and even the government is avoiding triumphalist tones as it's trying slowly to chart its new independent course outside of the EU. For the vast majority of the people, Brexit kind of ended with the election of last December. That was actually the whole point to some extent. The Conservatives told people to vote for them to get Brexit out of their lives, and this is what you see for most people and their attitude towards Brexit. What you see is a slow drip of information and a slow flow of new rules and news that kind of show you what life will be like outside of the EU. There's news, for example, of the UK's new agricultural policy that will substitute the common agricultural policy and the subsidies given to British farmers. The Iran-US controversy over Iran's nuclear deal kind of showed the people that the UK will have to chart a more cautious diplomatic approach. In some issues, the UK will remain closer to its European allies than what it will to the United States. The UK is one of the countries that is pushing very much for Iran to remain engaged with the West. And even a lot of people who were supporters of Brexit actually have to cope with the fact that the UK will not be in the EU anymore. Even Nigel Farage said that he feels sentimental about having to leave the European Parliament. Of course, being a member of the European Parliament is the only office that Nigel Farage has held over the last 20 years. So there's a sense of things being a bit strange and a bit bizarre, even for those who are supportive of Brexit. A lot of people are understanding, a lot of people know that there's more questions that will need to be answered once Brexit takes place. What about the opponents of Brexit? How are they coping with the impending exit of the UK from the EU? You still see news items on major newspapers that are trying to tell people and warn people that the strategy that the government seems to be taking towards the negotiations with the EU for the future relationship, and we'll have more on this in our next episode, will entail costs for the UK. The government is already saying that it will want to diverge from EU rules, and this means that there will not be a full access to the EU market as it currently exists. There's already people who are saying that the UK should be bracing for costs, that Brexit is only now starting, and this is when you're going to start seeing all the consequences of Brexit. But the reality is that the opponents of the government don't really have time to think about Brexit all that much. The Labour Party has just started its election procedure to elect a new leader after Jeremy Corbyn will step down, and just like during the general election last December, the Labour Party wants to talk about everything else apart from Brexit. In Scotland, all people care about is independence. The Scottish National Party really wants to push forward for a new independence referendum, and even Northern Ireland, after years of not having a government, just found a new power-sharing agreement to form a new government. And Northern Ireland, of course, is preparing very much for life as a de facto member of the EU as per the withdrawal agreement that Boris Johnson signed with the EU. So who really cares about Brexit in London? Actually, the only people who really feel a sense of loss are, of course, EU citizens who live in London. People like me, people who know that their life and perhaps their rights and their status will look much different after January 31st and generally and for sure after the end of the year, once Brexit has taken place for good. I don't know about other people, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to be getting together with a few other European friends on the night of January 31st to have a Brexit party, sampling various alcoholic beverages from other parts of Europe. The best possible way to celebrate this occasion. So this was the Limbo Brexitometer, coming to you from a country that for years discussed Brexit as if it was the most important thing in the world, and now actually seems willing to discuss anything else apart from Brexit, even Megxit. But hey, it's the UK after all. Of course, there's those who want to celebrate the great occasion, but none really wants to hear their bongs. There's those who want to complain and they warn about all the dangers that are ahead, but nobody really wants to listen to their moans. Actually, people just kind of want to see what life brings to them. The point is that as Brexit advances, as negotiations advance, and as the government itself tries to present a more technocratic and more cautious approach to Brexit, very shortly we may be discussing more Brexit in Europe than what we discuss it here in the UK. But luckily for you, you actually have Brexitometer precisely to be here to give you all the news of the impending Brexit negotiations. As we move forward, remember that you can always send me your questions using the hashtag Brexitometer on social media, on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, and next time we'll definitely be coming to you from a place that will not be a part of the EU anymore. Take care.
We shall fight in the field.
Mit der Akzeptanz der
C'est pas parce que les
vier
Britanniques
Grundfreiheiten und dazu gehört
ont
auch
décidé
die
de sortir qu'ils ne doivent pas
Freizügigkeit
être
der
associés dans ce
Person.
processus.
Brexit means Brexit.